Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, our team is presenting on Beyond Meat, a company that is doing more than just making burgers. It's helping to reshape the conversation around meat, sustainability, and innovation in the global food system. Let's start with a quick business overview. Founded in 2009, Beyond Meat is a global leader in plant-based meat. Its mission is to mimic the taste and texture of traditional meat using only plant-based ingredients while promoting sustainability and ethics. The company follows B2C omni-channel model, distributed through grocery chains, restaurants, and fast food outlets in over 80 countries. Its supply chain includes key partners like Roquette, helping deliver signature products like plant-based burgers, sausages, and chicken. Now, moving on to the ownership and challenges. Beyond Meat is publicly traded on Nasdaq with investors focused on sustainable innovation. Nonetheless, the company has recently struggled with failing sales, increased competition from large players like Tyson, and high operational costs. At the same time, broader industry challenges like inflation and concerns around processed foods have also affected its performance.
Okay, now moving on to the industry overview. The global plant-based protein industry and sustainable farming industries have been on the rise ever since many different issues, such as climate change and animal cruelty, have become of societal importance. Now, since then, the industry has generated over $17.1 billion in the current year and is expected to grow to over $54.8 billion in just 10 years by 2030. And the industry also gives jobs to over 55,000 people. Now, due to this new surge of companies dedicating themselves to alternative proteins and sustainable farming practices, Beyond Meat, a pioneer in this industry, has felt some competition, namely from Cargill, Tyson Foods, Smithfield Foods, Maple Leaf Foods, JBS, and Purdue Farm. Now, this industry has received major backlash on a variety of issues, everything from unfair practices to product quality, and has been heavily addressed. However, the three largest issues are worker abuse, greenhouse gases, and environmental welfare. All right. Now, looking at the industry issues, beginning with worker abuse, many companies within this industry have been accused of taking advantage of their workers through poor work and living standards and below minimum wage pay. Now, although all companies want to avoid this issue, it is very difficult for them to change their processes, as the way things are currently allows for low costs and higher margins. However, this is a relevant issue because of the negative effects that these environments have on workers. Many of them are exposed to hazardous chemicals and are being paid so little that many of them fall under mental health issues like depression and anxiety. Now, secondly, with greenhouse gas emissions, these are potentially the most prevalent issues seen within this industry, as the industry processes emit 30% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Now, because climate change is such a big issue, society has become much more aware of GHGs, um, and organizations are forced to react. Now, this is a big step for organizations, and it's difficult because making a shift to new processes means new training and learning, buying new materials, and completely shifting organizational focus to sustainable efforts. Now, lastly, we have environmental warfare, and this continues to be a large issue. The depletion of natural resources has been widely seen as things like deforestation, water depletion, and even animal cruelty are regular occurrences in the industry. Now, these are also widely seen by society as a prevalent issue, and they are calling for organizations to change their ways. Now, similar to other issues, the cost of change is very high and is a slow process, which makes it difficult for organizations to change. However, the increasing societal importance sways organizations to make that change. Now, analyzing Beyond Meat's competitors based on the three most material issues faced in the industry, it's clear that a combination of defense and isolation strategies are implemented by the majority of organizations in the industry to combat these issues. Now, at Cargill, they present a denial strategy when it comes to worker abuse, claiming that even though they have backlash, the majority of claims are not verified and as such are not directly affecting or being caused by the business. When it comes to GHG emissions and environmental welfare, Cargill presents an isolated sustainability strategy, and they have launched division-specific product programs to reduce um, these present issues. Now, at Tyson Foods, they present a much more denial-heavy approach. With worker abuse, Tyson Foods refused external audit access for child labor claims, creating a dark cloud around the organization and this worker abuse. With GHG emissions, Tyson Foods states that because they are so large, they have a right to emit greenhouse gases, proving a denial strategy. And with environmental welfare, Tyson has decided to prevent an isolated strategy, as it has begun to implement initiatives in a section of its processes, however, it still fails to reach the entire business. Now, at Smithfield Foods, a defense strategy is very present, as the company recently settled for millions of dollars in court over a child labor case, and chose to frame this case as a way to help them implement new preventative measures for worker abuse. Now, similarly, when it comes to GHG emissions, Smithfield states that image management is more important to them than environmental goals, specifically related to greenhouse gases. And interestingly, environmental warfare is reported on, and goals and progress is actually stated. However, the difference between their approach on GHG emissions and environmental welfare are sufficiently differ um, to decipher Smithfield's strategy as isolated in this case. Now, with Maple Leaf Foods, this is the only organization present that is a completely embedded strategy, with all three material issues being completely embedded into the organization's strategy and goals. And lastly, JBS presents a defense-heavy strategy with large defensive campaigns launched to combat worker abuse and environmental welfare claims, while they have dedicated a sector of business to managing GHG emissions, demonstrating an isolated strategy for this issue. Now, to further understand how competition can be framed between Beyond Meat and its competitors, a SWOT analysis can be used. Now, beginning with competitor strengths, the majority of the competitors have actually begun reported on all three material issues to some extent, something that society and stakeholders have really appreciated. Now, other competitors, namely Cargill and Maple Leaf Foods, have created successful programs to prevent the three main issues from persisting in their organizations. Now, moving on to competitor weaknesses, it's clear that the majority of competitors continue to present defensive strategies when it comes to sustainability. If the company has developed solutions, they are very isolated within the firm. Now, moving on to opportunities for Beyond Meat, the organization has the opportunity to take advantage of being a smaller and newer company, as it can adopt its brand image as one that focuses on sustainability much easier than a larger company can that has already developed its own culture and its own tradition. However, the threat comes with financial strain. As a relatively new company, Beyond Meat has less financial backing than larger competitors, meaning that it may have a larger effect on the income statement when compared to competitors trying to shift their sustainability strategy.
Now let's take a look at the institutional forces limiting Beyond Meat's growth. Regulatory forces come first. Food laws are built around animal-based products. Terms like plant-based is still lack clear definition, making approval slower and our research and development more complex for Beyond Meat. Normative forces include cultural habits. Meat is still seen as essential to health and traditions, while plant-based options are often dismissed as less religious for vegetarians. Cognitive forces involve consumer perceptions. Many think plant-based meat is too processed or not nutritious. Packaging and unfamiliar ingredients often lead to unfair judgment. Altogether, these forces show mainstream acceptance, which is a slow one, but also highlight key areas for transformation.
Beyond Meat's sustainability strategy, the company tries to innovate within the food industry by lowering the meat production by introducing new plant-based products. A way that they look into their performance and metrics are by conducting several different reports which look into their scope emissions and to make sure that they're aligned with their climate targets. They have a couple of future commitments, one of them being that they plan to be 100% recyclable by 2030. And they plan to provide full traceability of their key ingredients that go into their products to ensure compliance. Lastly, they plan to make sure everything is transparent with their consumers by taking a part of initiatives such as the science-based targets. To go more in detail about Beyond Meat's sustainability strategy, the company positions itself as a healthy plant-based alternative that targets healthy conscious consumers while making sure that they have a low environmental impact. Alongside this, a few of their core competencies would include their proprietary food sciences that make their products more unique and difficult to replicate, while having strategic partnerships that enable them to create a more diverse menu option that caters towards these global preferences. And lastly, have an identity that reflects their commitment to animal welfare. Alongside all of this, their culture is committed to making sure that they're able to transform the global food industry and promote plant-based eating. While being a great company, Beyond Meat has a couple of things that they can improve on. First of all, supply chain transparency, where the company has faced a criticism for not being able to provide traceability for their key ingredients such as soy and pea protein. Where not being able to figure out how they are grown and where they are grown, we can't really account for the environmental and social impact of these ingredients. Moving on to energy use in production and distribution, a main criticism is that their production and refrigerated transport relies heavily on non-renewable energy sources, which kind of counters their sustainability efforts. Lastly, their monoculture farming practices. They have heavy reliance on monoculture crops such as peas and soy, which present a significant sustainability challenge as they could lead to a couple of different challenges like loss of biodiversity and high pesticide use.
Meat creates shared value by reconceiving products and markets to serve health-conscious, sustainably minded consumers. The plant-based meats offer similar protein levels to traditional meat, but with less fat, more fiber, and the consumption of this leads to fewer health risks. The company uses sustainable vegetable-based ingredients and promotes values such as environmental protection, animal welfare, and human health, becoming more appealing to consumers. While Beyond Meat delivers strong value, there's room to improve affordability and accessibility. Expanding globally can lower costs and distribute value more equitably across stakeholders, making sustainable eating more attainable for all. The company builds supportive industry clusters through various partnerships, such as retail and fast food chains, to carry their products. Beyond Meat collaborates with Canadian retail chains such as Walmart, Metro, Loblaws, and Sobeys. The company also collaborates with fast food chains such as KFC, A&W, Tim Hortons, and McDonald's. Beyond Meat additionally collaborates with a variety of non-government organizations and engages in pledges such as offering free meals to children and underprivileged communities. Additionally, they collaborate with institutions such as Stanford University to advance plant-based nutritional research. However, their value distribution to communities can increase as they offer assistance to communities affected by their production processes.
Beyond Meat captures value through a set of rare and hard-to-imitate assets. At the top right of the matrix, proprietary food science stands out. It's both highly rare and difficult to replicate, forming the company's technical edge. Mission-driven brand identity and strategic partnerships further enhance value, helping the company build trust, scale quickly, and reach mainstream audiences. Other components like sustainable ingredients and environmental impact also support value capture, but with lower rarity or higher substitutability. The unique mix strengthens Beyond Meat's ability to differentiate in a competitive space. Let's now highlight three key sources of competitive advantage. First, Beyond Meat employs a proprietary food science approach to create plant-based meat alternatives, focusing on replicating the taste, texture, and appearance of animal meat using plant-based proteins, fats, minerals, and other ingredients, while also being vegan and free from GMOs. Second, Beyond Meat has built a robust distribution network and strategic partnerships, including agreements with McDonald's, KFC, and Pizza Hut to expand its reach and offer plant-based options globally. Third, Beyond Meat's mission-driven brand identity centers on Eat What You Love, promoting plant meat alternatives as a better way to feed the future, addressing human health, climate change, resource conservation, and animal welfare.
All right, now we're going to examine what needs to be transformed in Beyond Meat's consumer segment. First, we have our 5 key consumer segments. So the first one is sustainability skeptics. They require educational marketing, and we need to add in trusted endorsements to overcome their resistance. Then we have our functional bargain shoppers, so they're price sensitive and they need competitive pricing plus clear value benefits. Then we have our price/quality shoppers. They need taste and texture similar to real meat, and we need product innovation and chef partnerships. After that, we have our eco/socially conscious shoppers. They pay premiums for environmentally aligned products. We must emphasize transparent sustainability reporting. And then we have our last ones, our body lovers. So they focus on nutrition and fitness. They require scientific backing and positioning. So our products act as high performance protein alternatives. Apart from that, we need to strategically address these segment-specific needs so we can expand our reach beyond meat enthusiasts and into the growing plant-based industry.
Let's apply the iceberg model to Beyond Meat. At the tip, the revenue is stagnating. Its stock value has plummeted 98% since 2021, and it's facing a $1 billion debt crisis with no clear path to repayment. Despite being in a growing market, consumer adoption of plant-based meat remains niche and slow. At a deeper level, the plant-based meat industry is highly competitive, and Beyond Meat's financial instability has made it hard to regain momentum. At the core of this issue is perception. Many still associate meat with strength and view plant-based alternatives as overly processed or inferior. These deeply held beliefs influence consumer behavior, reinforcing slow revenue growth and eroding investor confidence.
We have our powerful hot causes. So these are environmental impact of meat production, animal welfare concerns, and health implications of meat consumption. However, research shows that sometimes they need to shift towards cool mobilization tactics, evening out the passions through engaging new behaviors, focusing on personal benefits like taste and convenience, creating inclusive narratives that don't alienate meat eaters, and positioning plant-based choices as aspirational rather than just political. So our strategy includes developing community-based cooking events, launching educational initiatives. This can be centered on culinary skills rather than activism. They can be creating positive social experiences around plant-based eating and building identity around the innovation of and future toward choices instead of rejecting just regular tradition. Then we have our balanced approach, which allows us to maintain our core values while making plant-based options more accessible and appealing to mainstream consumers. Following the transformational strategy, we have two main paradoxes to overcome. The first one is that our products currently compete by mimicking conventional meat, so our success is purely measured by the resemblance to real animal products. So while this contradicts our potential to create entirely new food categories, the market forces push us towards imitation rather than just new innovation. So you have to resist institutional pressure. We have to shift our perspective to position plant-based proteins as superior. To develop new products, we have to showcase unique benefits and create new food categories appealing to all. Apart from that, our second tension is while we want to disrupt the meat industry, our distribution and scaling rely on partnerships with conventional producers. So our dependence on existing meat supply chains creates institutional pressures that compromise our goals. To overcome the second tension, we have to reduce dependencies on conventional meat infrastructure. We have to build coalitions with sustainability-focused food service companies and create vertically integrated supply.
Developing core competencies such as proprietary food science can help Beyond Meat become a market rebel and adopt a transformational strategy. To facilitate a social movement, Beyond Meat, along with its meta organization, must push the boundaries of food science while embedding sustainability and transparency into every step. Who makes up this meta organization and how can they contribute to this transformational change? Food science R&D teams can expand beyond pea proteins. Sustainable procurement teams can ensure responsible ingredient sourcing. Food safety and regulatory teams oversee approvals of new food technologies. Together, these roles are complementary. Researchers create innovation, farmers and suppliers provide sustainable ingredients, and regulators establish safety and compliance.
Beyond Meat can evolve its embedded strategy to a transformational one by strengthening its strategic partnerships. The company already has a strong network with major players like KFC and McDonald's to expand its visibility and reach in the plant-based market, helping them connect with the diverse consumer segments globally. But they can take this further by expanding distribution channels like through direct to consumer models through companies with like Instacart, where Beyond Meat could increase their accessibility and offer lower pricing through subscriptions that they can offer through these different partnerships. Alongside this, they could partner with NGOs, institutions, and the government, like an organization like at WWF, to increase sustainability, ethical production, and bring in expert knowledge.
Core competency, which can help Beyond Meat adopt a transformational strategy, is the positioning of plant-based proteins as a solution to environmental and social issues. This core competency is captured through its mission-driven brand identity, and adhering to its mission further helps Beyond Meat become a market rebel in this industry. Beyond Meat upholds its brand identity through collaboration with its meta organizations. Stakeholder governance platform based on the ecosystem of shared values will facilitate this collaboration and help the company adhere to its mission. By aligning all members with a common agenda to shift towards plant-based proteins, share metrics on sustainability impact, and encourage constant communication among stakeholders, Beyond Meat is guaranteed to achieve transformational change.
Next, we explore how Beyond Meat addresses institutional forces through its proprietary food science strategy. Regulatory-wise, Beyond Meat should continue working with CFIA and research institutions to improve approval processes and labeling standards. Normatively, it can deepen partnerships with restaurants like A&W and Tim Hortons to normalize plant-based meats in daily life. And cognitively, transparent campaigns like ingredient explainers, QR codes, and targeted product lines can address misconceptions about nutrition and processing.
Beyond Meat could tackle the institutionalized forces by using their strategic partnerships. In terms of regulatory forces, they could align with sustainability-focused policies and environment goals to strengthen its reputation as a client-conscious partner and tackle those strict labeling laws in regions like the United States, Canada, and Europe. In terms of normative forces, they could address these challenges by collaborating further with these major fast food chains like KFC and McDonald's, and have these partnerships help normalize plant-based eating by making them more socially acceptable, boosting their adoption amongst these diverse groups. Lastly, cognitive forces is all about changing perceptions and positioning their products as more familiar through burgers and sausages, and having this repeated exposure can help them make plant-based choices feel more natural.
Building on that, Beyond Meat also leverages its mission-driven brand identity to overcome institutional resistance. On the regulatory side, enhancing sustainability reports and working with health agencies positions the brand as a leader to responsible food production. Normatively, it should frame plant-based eating as part of the global health and climate movement, using emotional storytelling and the influencer partnerships to reach wider audiences, and cognitively embedding its core values like sustainability and innovation into everyday touchpoints like packaging and social media can help make plant-based choices feel normal, not niche.
And this brings to the end of the presentation. Thank you for listening.